If you have surfed the web within the Thomas fandom space, then you're familiar with this illustration from the Railway series. It is from the first illustration of the very first book. And you notice that of all the engines here, only a few of them appear past this illustration. The ones in the center are a little weird. They are the loaned engines. Engines that were canonically brought on loan to help during an engine shortage, and were sent away for being rude and as more engines arrived. Now, originally, they were just background characters during the early days of the books before all the lore was fully figured out. And Audrey never liked leaving things unexplained fully, so he came up with this canon reason. And he also gave more info on who they are specifically. They are 98462, 87546, but he didn't say anything about the unnamed and unnumbered red engine. And technically there was a couple designs for this red engine, supposedly. But regardless, they were canonically sent away, and we never see them again. As a result, they have become Glup Shidos within the Railway series. And the fandom loves Glup Shidos, so as you can imagine, there have been many interpretations of these characters in fan stories. In this video, we'll dive into my spin on these characters, who they are, and where they went after their time on Sodor. Now, this video is not official lore at all, and just purely my headcanon on this. So if you disagree or notice that it's distinguishably different from official lore, then it's all intentional and it's perfectly fine if you disagree. We have free will, so by all means, if you really want to, you can make your own interpretation. Now then, without further ado, let's dive in. 1920s. The recently grouped Northwestern Railway is struggling to keep up with the mainline demands. Most of the engines from the previous railways that were inherited were either tank engines or really small tender engines. Most of these services were pretty long, and more often than not required double, triple, hell even quadruple heading just to get going. And the small railway was eyeing to be bought out by the LMS for a takeover due to its proximity to its jurisdiction. And during this time, the big rival of the LMS, the LNER, wanted one more reason to screw them over. And so, they quietly sold to Northwestern one of their brand new A1s for express trains. This, admittedly overkill engine for a small island, was a great help, and was able to get the express services up and running. Although he couldn't be in multiple places at once, and so there was still a vacancy for engines to handle mainline local trains and goods trains. And so the railway decided to bring on some random engines from across the UK to fill in the demand. They brought on 2 new engines on loan, and lumped them with some of the resident goods engines, making them a group of 4. These engines are as follows. Loan engine number 1, number 98462, LNWR G1, known as Lancelot. Loan engine number 2, 87546, LNWR Clotton class, known as Eunice. Now we have our resident engines. Red engine number 1, X Weldon Suddery and GCR 8K, known as Red Dragon. And resident red engine number 2, X Sodor and Mainland Dean Goods, known as Hyman. Yes, only the blue engines were loaned in this AU. Lancelot and Eunice were assigned to passenger work, and were painted into Northwestern blue to match. They were rather impolite at times, to keep it simple, but more so Lancelot than anyone else. And they were eventually sidelined gradually as the years went on, and they were still around during the 1926 engine strike. And most of them even participated in it. Well, all except Hyman. Hyman saw mentoring the loaned engines as an opportunity to prove himself still useful, given he's been around since the very early days. But with Lancelot and Eunice being the ways that they were, you can imagine how that went. Eventually, he was made into a backup engine, only brought out during emergencies. The 4 engines remained on Sodor for a few more years, slugging away at the leftover scraps on the primary mainland engines. And eventually Hyman was assigned to be a rescue engine, basically just pulling around the breakdown trains or clearing hazards from the line, like snow and the like. They were all still planning to stay for a few more years through the 1930s. That was until a big crash occurred, a very big financial one. The 1929 stock market crash led to the Great Depression globally. Everyone was eating shit badly, and the Northwestern Railway was no exception to this time, and it was forced to make cuts to survive. The initially extended loans on Lancelot and Eunice were terminated early, and they are both handed back to the LNWR, recently grouped into the LMS. Much of the older rolling stock from the pre-grouping days were either sold or scrapped, and a handful of engines were also sold off. This included Red Dragon and Hyman. Hyman was bought by the GWR, and Red Dragon wound up with the LNER. And this will be the last time they will be on Sodor, at least for this foreseeable future.